everyone, Pam Gregory, astrologer. I'm going to be speaking to you today about the second half of January and the new moon that we have coming up in Aquarius on the 24th. Now, I'm actually filming this on the 8th of the month, so this is before the lunar eclipse in Cancer, 20 of Cancer, that's happening on the 10th. It's before Uranus and Ceres go direct and be very powerful on the 11th, and it's before the exact Saturn-Pluto conjunction at 2246 of Capricorn on the 12th. So because that is such intense and dynamic energy, they may well be big events happening in the world before this video is released, because it takes me a couple of days to get out in the world. But and the signatures, the aspects that we have in January are really going to set the tone and some of the themes for 2020. The nodal axis in Cancer and Capricorn, which we've had all of last year and will last until the middle of this year, that axis is very much about emotional security and practical security. And I think some of those issues may have come to a head in the last few days. And all through 2020, we are going to have strong cardinal energy. Now, that means that planets, many planets will be in cardinal signs through the year. And those signs are Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. And what cardinal energy represents is yang energy. It's action-oriented. It's things happening in the world generally. So although the energy shifts gradually as we go through 2020, the nodal axis shifts from Cancer, Capricorn into Gemini and Sagittarius in May, and we have a shift of planets, Saturn and Jupiter, finally into Aquarius in December, although Saturn dips into Aquarius in sort of May to July. It is still going to be a strongly event-oriented year. So be aware of that. Pace yourself with this. And remember all the things I've been talking about in previous videos, and I will continue to talk about in this video. So we still have this huge bunching of planets in Capricorn in the middle of January. We have Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto, South Node, very much South Node in Capricorn, connected to how we have used our power as individuals, how leaders and governments have used their power. Have they used it with integrity, accountability, transparency, or if not, they will be found accountable. And more secrets, more corruption will be revealed in 2020 as part of this process of the deconstruction of the old order as well. We have Ceres, the asteroid of harvests and agriculture and Mother Earth, also connected to this big conjunction in Capricorn. We have Chariklo, beautiful centaur energy that I talked about last time, and I'm going to talk about again this time because I've had an enormous number of emails. I mean, generally every day I get several hundred emails, but on top of that, I've had around 500 emails specifically on Chariklo since I talked about her in the last video. I've never had so many on any particular planet, point, asteroid I've ever talked about. So that suggests the need for her symbolism is very great in our world right now. And luckily, we are able to access it the more we know about her. So Capricorn is the sign connected to density, permanence, slowness. Earth signs are very slow. And I've talked about this idea of a home for life, a job for life, things that were long term. All of that energy is going to gradually shift as we go towards the end of the year and we start to move the outer planets into air. In general, the outer planets from the end of this year are going to be moving into air and fire. Very different from Earth. Earth is slow, Earth is dense, Earth doesn't change quickly, and Earth is very connected to materialism, ownership, things that you've earned. This is mine. There's a strong sense of territory very often, particularly with Saturn in Capricorn. That rules borders, boundaries, walls. Look at Brexit, look at the wall going up between the US and Mexico. this is mine. You are different from me. You are black, I am white. You are Muslim, you are Jewish, you are Christian, you are whatever. This Saturn in Capricorn particularly promotes division and therefore polarity. This sense of people, groups of people being different from one another. And that is going to shift as we get into Aquarius energy too. Saturn and Jupiter, as I say, move fully into Aquarius in December this year, and then Pluto moves into Aquarius starting in 2023, fully in 2024. We're going to have a huge shift from, as I say, these outer planets being in Earth, and gradually in the mid 2020s, 23, 24, 25, moving into air and fire. Things will be so fast then, so quick, compared to how we've lived our lives up to now. So the other thing I wanted to talk about with this big bunching up of planets in Capricorn is Ceres is a very important part of this conjunction. Now Ceres, as I say, is connected to Mother Earth. I think there can be no one on Earth who is not aware of what's happening to the environment. We have trashed our Earth, and the consequences, Capricorn, very much the sign of consequences of our actions, are becoming very clear. Australia, huge example, the absolute apocalypse that's been happening in Australia, absolutely unimaginable fires. It must have been completely terrifying for people. We've had those in Brazil, we've had them earlier in California, we've got floods in Indonesia. It is very clear that our Earth is in distress and needs attention. So this is a clarion call to start to love our Earth and think about our consumerism. It's very interesting in Capricorn, again, it's about materialism, and Jupiter in Capricorn particularly will make us aware of the excesses of materialism. Have we bought stuff we've never even used, or we've locked in a cupboard for months? Capricorn is about shedding, getting down to the simplest, shedding all those things that we don't use day to day. And Uranus in Taurus until 2026 is very much about that shift in values as well, getting down to the simplest, changing our values on what is really, really important to us. So environment, a huge thing. Our sense of materialism, huge thing. Our sense of territory. This is mine, you can't come, this is my land, you can't come beyond that gate. That is going to shift. And I want to sort of talk about a beautiful post that I posted on my Facebook page a few days ago. It's from a lady who lives in Australia. And clearly she has lived through some pretty terrible things in recent days and weeks. But her post wasn't about that. Her post was about love. It was extraordinary. And she said that was her experience through all these bushfires and wildfires, that people had come together it brought me to tears actually, in an incredible way. So people had welcomed strangers into their home, they'd fed them, they'd given them beds, they'd cared for them, they were feeding wild animals, they were abandoning their paid work to go and work as volunteers fighting the fires day and night in Australia. Incredibly testing work. And she said the wave of love that had come from everybody had pulled together, the power of the people. And she said that was her experience living through the fires. It was beautiful actually, that somebody can kind of get through their fear to the other side, to have this sense of pulling together, helping each other. That is very much the best of Aquarius that we're moving towards. And indeed, I think right across the world, our hearts have broken open for that situation. All the animals, the people, the homeless, it's just been overwhelming. But what that has encouraged people to do from wherever they were in the world, if they couldn't afford to send money or be practical because they weren't close enough to be of practical help, they could meditate, they could pray for rain, which has now happened to a small extent in Australia. We need much more there. But in breaking open their hearts, this tsunami of love and compassion flowed towards Australia and was palpable. So, this is a very important part of the power of the people. So I want to come back really to this symbolism about Chariklo, because I think she is such a beautiful archetype, a beautiful centaur, and as I say, the world needs her so much right now, because a lot of what we're going to see this month and continuing through 2020 is this strong yang energy, strong outer events happening, and Chariklo is kind of the antidote to that. Her symbolism is deeply feminine, yin, receptive energy. She has an exquisite state of being. She has an absolute stillness where she can just hold the sacred space to enable healing for people. She absolutely operates from source, this loving connection to source. And that's something else that really can help us shift, because as I mentioned, Saturn in Capricorn very much is about, it promotes separation, it promotes division, and therefore it promotes polarity, good, bad, black, white, blaming, it's your fault, not my fault, etc., anger, all of those things. But I think sometimes we have to say, although it's very human to feel those things, or in some instances, anger, etc., about what's happening in the world, does it necessarily help us? Are we not just pouring energy into what we don't want? So the gift of Chariklo is that connection to source dispels polarity, because we are operating from oneness. We're operating from beaming out this beautiful state of being that is permanent. Whatever happens on the outside, whatever turbulence, it's a steady state of being. It's very much, as I mentioned last time, what the Buddhists would call the infinite ground of being that is always there for us. And so if we can tune in, if we can take time out to pull back from craziness in the world and turn inwards, you can turn inwards very simply and watch your breath. You can turn inwards. You can think of a candle flame. You can think of a candle flame in your third eye. It's a beautiful thing to do. You can think of this white column of bright white sparkly light coming in through your crown chakra with new information. You can do those things, or you can start to meditate on the symbolism of Chariklo and get more information, because if she's appearing now in our consciousness, she was discovered in 1977, but partly through the excellent research of Melanie Reinhardt, another astrologer who I mentioned last time. Her research has enabled Chariklo to come closer to our consciousness. And so that sort of thing happens when we are ready as humanity to integrate that archetype into our consciousness. I think the other gift, there are many gifts that Chariklo gives us as this kind of antidote to the yang energy, but Capricorn is very connected to time. Saturn is actually in myth the lord of time, Kronos. And when we live in linear time, there's always this sense of pressure. We've got to do another thing, another thing, another thing, another thing. We're in a pressurized situation just to get things done. But at any moment, there exist kind of two realms of time, if you like, or time and no time. Because if we can just drop through turning inwards, through our meditation, into that space of no time, we take the pressure off. And that is another place where we can start to create most effectively from that better state of being than trying to force things in the 3D world. Capricorn is very, very connected to the 3D world. And I think Chariklo is connected to something else entirely, much more 5D in her symbolism. So that is something we can all really, really benefit from. Now let me talk about the new moon in Aquarius. The new moon is happening on the 24th of the month. It's happening at 1:41 p.m. Pacific and 9:41 p.m. UK time. It's happening at 4 degrees and 21 minutes of Aquarius. Now see where that's falling in your chart, 4 degrees and 21 minutes of Aquarius. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you can download a free birth chart from my website, pamgregory.com, and then you can check on this link appearing above. You can go to my store, buy a 2-part tutorial video series, which will explain everything you need to know about what the meaning is for you from this update and any update I ever do. So people are really enjoying those. So this is always a new beginning. Great time to set a new intention for what you want this to represent in your life. I think also this is going to give us a glimpse of the future, because Aquarian energy, as I say, is coming in much more strongly from December onwards, although we're going to get more of a glimpse between May and July when Saturn moves into Aquarius. But if Capricorn is about the past, Aquarius is about the future. And at this new moon, we have the Sun and Moon, 4/21 of Aquarius, being very tightly squared by Uranus, the ruler of Aquarius, at 2 degrees of Taurus. So this is a very Aquarian new moon. So it can be a great time for new ideas, creativity, seeing things from an oblique, a different point of view, downloads coming in for you, just fresh ideas coming in very, very quickly for you. Creativity is emphasised by Venus being tightly conjunct to Neptune at 16 of Pisces, and that conjunction is squared by Mars in Sagittarius. So that is about altered states, Venus, Neptune in Pisces. It's about beauty, it's about creativity. Mars squaring that is about putting energy into a spiritual practice, a daily spiritual practice. Remember, one of the upsides of Capricorn is about mastering a modality, becoming a master. In a mundane sense, Mars square to Neptune in Pisces can be about aggression at sea. Neptune is connected to the oil price, by the way. So we'll see if that manifests in that way around about this new moon. But just to dwell more on this Aquarian energy, because it's so different from Capricorn, the slowness, the density, the permanence, the materialism of Capricorn. And this is much more about innovation as we move into Aquarius energy. Innovation, there are going to be huge advances in quantum physics, in genetics, in medical innovation, in transport, huge in transport. We are going to be able to travel to places in a lickety-split blink of an eye compared to how we have travelled in the past. It's very much about like-minded people coming together. It's about the power of the people. It will strengthen social media, although there could be more controls on social media with Saturn coming in there at the end of the year. More people living in community, more people sharing, this sense in Australia of people sharing whatever they had, rather than this sense, this is mine and this is my ownership. So all of this is really beautiful. But as we move towards the end of the year, we are really into a fast rundown of Aquarian energy, where we're moving towards robotics, we're moving towards AI, we're moving into a very novel age of new ideas where speed is going to come in very, very strongly. Going to be quite shocking for people who don't have any Aquarian energy in their chart. But some of the downsides of Aquarius are it's very much about purity. This is the shadow side of Aquarius. It's about purity, almost sterility in a way, because now you can get headsets with goggles and headphones where you can experience nature virtually and hear birdsong, see beautiful trees, but you're completely separate from nature, because Aquarius energy is about the head, it's about the intellect, it's not about the heart. And we must stay connected to our heart and to nature as we move forwards. And I really want to make that case very strongly. The more we become disconnected from heart and from nature, the more difficult life will be. And what I'd suggest with this brilliance of Aquarius coming in, can we innovate new technology that supports Gaia, that is in line with Gaia's frequency and energy as that in turn is shifting, rather than challenges Gaia's energy and making environmental challenges much greater. So I hope that's been helpful to you. Tune into Chariklo energy, turn inwards, energy follows attention, so be sure to beam out peace and calm and love to the world. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.